Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something maybe a bit different, a really personal set of materials. We've got biographies, family histories, personal accounts, all detailing the life of one man, Larry Gilder Robertson.
Yeah, and our aim here isn't just, listing dates and events.
Right.
We're trying to trace how someone starting from really humble roots in Mississippi ends up becoming, well, the rock for his entire family. It's a story about love, family, military service, but also dealing with some pretty intense tragedy and violence along the way.
And that resilience piece is huge here. The sources really emphasize it. We're exploring how these big, sometimes painful moments like a shocking family crisis or even, surviving a violent crime, how those things shape a person's character long term.
Exactly. We'll see how community and especially family acted as these constant anchors for him. There's this quote he's known for later in life.
Oh, the givers and takers one.
That's the one. There are two types of people, givers and takers. And when you look back at his life story, the source material really paints a picture of why he landed so firmly on being a giver. So that's kind of our framework today.
Okay, great. So where do we start? Back in Mississippi.
Let's do that. Part one. Those Mississippi roots and the tragedy that really changed everything for the family, roughly 1947 to 1965.
So tell us about the beginning. Houston, Mississippi.
Right. Larry Gilder Robertson, born September 20th, 1947. His parents were Sammy and Etoyle Robertson, and it was a big family.
How big?
6 kids in total. Larry was number 4. He had 3 older brothers, Sammy, Jack, that's the oldest, then Tony and Kurt, and then 2 younger siblings, Mike and his only sister, Nancy.
Wow, right in the middle. And then there's another little puzzle from his childhood. His nickname.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Beanie Barglenose.
Beanie, Barglenose.
Yep. And the source specifically says nobody really knows where it came from. It's just what he was called.
That's bizarre. Not like a shortening of Larry or Gilder, just Beanie Barglenose. Adds this little layer of mystery, doesn't it? Like maybe he was just a really quirky kid from the start?
Could be.
The sources really stress this work ethic wasn't like a bonus virtue. It was just life.
Picking cotton, helping his dad, Sammy, on the land, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Hard physical labor from a young age. That seems to be where that dependability we see later really comes from.
And he got a job pretty young too, right?
Yeah, remarkably young. 12 years old, working at a local grocery store. But what's really interesting is what he did with the money he earned. He wasn't saving for, baseball cards or something. He saved up every penny to buy his first horse, named her Beauty.
Beauty. And that horse, that wasn't just a short-term thing, was it?
Not at all. This is amazing. The sources say Beauty lived for over 30 years. She didn't pass away until around 1990.
No way. 30 years. So she was with him through everything. Childhood, the Army, getting married, having his own kids.
Pretty much. It really speaks volumes about his commitment, his devotion, to things and people he cared about. That horse was constant.
That's incredible. So besides the farm and Beauty, what were his school days like?
Pretty standard for the time, it seems. He was in the Houston High School band, played percussion, and he played football for the Hilltoppers.
Okay, normal high school stuff. But there's that one story, the zoo incident.
Ah, yes. The legendary 6th grade zoo trip. This story pops up a lot in the family accounts. He went with the high school band, somehow, to the zoo in Jackson, Mississippi, and they left him there, packed up the bus, and headed home without him. The story goes he might have been in the restroom or something.
Oh my gosh. 6th grade. Left behind at the zoo.
Can you imagine? It's sort of funny now, but it must have been terrifying then. He obviously figured out how to get back, but it's this little early anecdote about, resilience maybe, accidental independence forced upon him.
Definitely memorable.
Yeah.
But this period, these relatively normal, maybe slightly chaotic early years, they come to a very abrupt and tragic end.
Yeah, this is where the story takes a dark turn. We need to talk about the loss of his oldest brother, Sammy Jack, in 1962. This was the event that altered everything for the Robertson family.
Catastrophic blow, you said, especially for such a close-knit family on a farm.
Absolutely devastating and complicated. Sammy Jack's recent life had been a bit turbulent, according to the sources. He'd met a woman named Sue Ann Simmons, and they got married very quickly over in Georgia.
Okay.
Then they came back to the Mississippi Delta area, and that's when the crisis happened. They tried to rob a small convenience store.
Oh, wow.
It went badly wrong. They ended up taking the store owner, a Mr. Chaddock, hostage as they tried to escape.
This sounds like it spiraled fast. What was the outcome?
The outcome was tragic. Both Sammy Jack and the hostage, Mr. Chaddock, were killed during the getaway.
Both of them. Oh, man.
Yeah, and here's where it gets even more painful for the family. The official reports, the public story, was that Sammy Jack killed Mr. Chaddock.
But the family didn't believe that.
No. The sources are clear. The family firmly believed that the police actually killed Sammy Jack during the chase, the shootout. They didn't believe he was the one who killed the hostage.
That's a huge difference. Having to grieve while also dealing with a public narrative that labels your son or brother a killer versus believing he was maybe a victim of the chaos himself.
Exactly. Whether their belief was technically true or not, that divergence created this immense burden. And this wasn't just some local gossip.
Right, you mentioned it got bigger attention.
Yeah, the history shows it made the papers, of course, but it even appeared in a national crime magazine. So imagine that level of scrutiny, that exposure, hitting this family in a small Mississippi town while they're trying to process this horrific loss.
Unimaginable. They must have felt completely isolated except for each other.
Precisely. It seems like it forced them to turn inward, to rely solely on those family bonds, and the immediate result, they had to get out.
The move. That's what prompted the move to Alabama.
Directly. It was an abrupt departure from Mississippi, a complete break from that environment, the reminders, the potential judgment. They needed a fresh start.
Where did they land in Alabama?
They settled in Hoover. And you have to remember, Hoover back then wasn't the big city it is now. It was more of a small, growing town near Birmingham. So it was a significant shift from rural Mississippi farm life to this suburban setting in a different state, all because of that single terrible event in 1962.
That really sets the stage for the next phase of Larry's life then. Part 2, you called it. Service, transition, building his own family.
Exactly. From about 1965 to 1975. This is him moving into young adulthood, finding his footing after the family's upheaval, and starting his own nucleus.
So he finished high school in 65. What came next? College? Work?
A bit of both. He attended Jefferson State Community College for a while. The sources even mention he drove a school bus during that time.
Okay.
But this was the Vietnam era, right? So military service was a huge factor for young men then, and especially for the Robertson brothers. It seems like a real family tradition of service emerged.
Were his other brothers serving around the same time?
Oh, yeah. Tony, who was now the oldest brother after Sammy Jack's death, he was in the Air Force. Stationed in Japan, actually. Wow. Kurt also joined the military, ended up traveling to the Philippines. And the younger brother, Mike, joined the Army and spent time over in Germany. They were really spread across the globe.
So Larry followed suit.
He did. He joined the Army, but he didn't just enlist. He went for something pretty demanding. He joined the Special Forces, became a Green Beret.
Whoa, okay. Special Forces, that's serious business.
Absolutely. The training is incredibly rigorous, physical, mental discipline. The sources specifically mention training to jump out of airplanes. High-level stuff.
Did he see combat? Go overseas?
Interestingly, no. The accounts say he trained extensively, got the Green Beret, but he ended up serving as a reserve after his active duty. He never had an overseas deployment during, say, Vietnam.
But that training itself, that Special Forces background must have left a mark, that kind of discipline, that mindset.
You have to think so, right? It instills this deep-seated resilience, a kind of mental toughness, maybe a mission-focused attitude. It feels like part of the foundation for him becoming that rock later on. Even without combat, that training changes you.
Makes sense. So after his service, he comes back to Alabama.
Back to Central Alabama, yeah. He starts working, and it's during this period, post-service, that he meets Darlene Martin.
Carlene, okay, tell us about her.
She was from the Birmingham area, about 2 years younger than him. They met while he was working there. Things moved pretty quickly, it seems.
Yeah.
They got married on December 23rd, 1970. And listen to this. The wedding was held at his parents' house.
Really? Not a church or somewhere else?
Nope. Right there in Sammy and Etoile's home, which by then was in Bessemer, Alabama.
That says a lot, doesn't it? About the importance of that family center, even for his own wedding.
It really does. The parental home, that family nucleus established by Mama and Papa as they became known, was just paramount.
So, newlyweds, where did they start out living? Any interesting stories there?
Well, like a lot of young couples, they had some, let's say, memorable early housing situations. Started in an apartment in Hoover, but then they moved into this rental house.
Oh, I sense a story coming.
Darlene apparently had a nickname for it, the Rat House.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Seriously. Because of?
Because of a rather significant rodent infestation, yes. Yeah. It's one of those anecdotes that's probably funny in hindsight, but likely pretty awful at the time.
I can imagine. Part of that early married life struggle, I guess.
Struggle.
Building resilience one rat at a time.
Something like that. But they didn't stay there forever, thankfully. They found more stability in 1973.
Okay, where did they settle?
They bought their first home in a place called Shannon, Alabama. It's described as an old mining town off the Bessemer Cutoff. They were in the Golden Forest subdivision. This was their real anchor, their first proper home base.
And they started putting down roots there.
Yeah, the
Well,
sources mentioned they hosted neighborhood parties, got involved with other young couples,
yeah.
building their own community.
But still, that connection to his parents remained strong.
Incredibly strong. The histories just keep emphasizing how much time Larry and Darlene spent back at his parents' place. That closeness was just extraordinary. It was the model.
And his parents, Etoile and Sammy Mama and Papa, their house was the hub.
Totally. Especially Mama's kitchen. That's painted as the real heart of the family. The smells, the tastes. That's where the memories were made.
What kind of food are we talking? Any specialties mentioned?
Oh, yeah. The classics. Sweet potato pies, sugar cookies, banana pudding, and apparently legendary homemade ice cream. The kind of food that just tastes like family.
Sounds amazing. And the family kept growing during this time, right? Not just Larry and Darlene.
Absolutely. This was the baby boom era for the Robertson siblings. Tony, who'd met his wife Aki in Japan. They had Jamie and later another son, Lee.
Okay.
Kurt and his wife Lacan had their only child, a daughter named Heather. Mike married Susan Barentine, who, interestingly, was introduced to him by his sister Nancy.
Keeping it in the family network.
Right, and Nancy herself married John Wallace, though they were the ones who bucked the Alabama trend and moved away to Louisiana.
Got it. So lots of cousins starting to arrive. And what about Larry and Darlene's own kids?
Their family grew fast, too. First came Celia, born November 11, 1975.
And November 11th.
Yep.
Didn't you say Darlene?
Yep. Same day as Darlene's 26th birthday. Easy date to remember for him.
Definitely. What was Celia like?
Described as a real standout from the start. Red hair, very independent personality. She loved to dance, started lessons when she was just 2 years old, and apparently she later went on to teach dance herself.
Wow, started young. Who came next?
Next was Lori, born July 11, 1978. And she's often described in contrast to Celia, more reserved, maybe a bit shy.
Okay, different personality.
Yeah. And then they rounded out the family with their son, Brad. He was born October 23, 1980.
So by the early 80s, Larry and Darlene have 3 kids, Celia, Lori, and Brad. He's gone from being this kid deeply affected by tragedy through the Green Berets to being a settled family man in Alabama.
That's a perfect summary. He built this stable, loving core, really mirroring the family structure he grew up in and clung to after 1962. But the next couple of decades, from the early 80s to the early 2000s, would bring, well, more challenges, both deep sorrow and sudden danger.
Okay, let's move into that. Part 4, joys, losses, and what you call the career-defining incident. This period starts with some really tough losses, right around when Brad was born.
Yeah, it was a brutal 1-2 punch for the family, happening very close together around 1980. First, Tony's wife, Aki. She passed away from cancer.
Oh, Aki, who he met in Japan. How old were their kids?
Very young. He was left with 3 young sons. The youngest was just a baby. And the sources say Aki was just universally adored by the whole Robertson clan. Her loss was felt deeply.
That's heartbreaking. And then?
And then, almost right after, Larry's father, Papa Sammy the patriarch, the center of that family gravity, he died suddenly, had a heart attack while he was out working in his garden at home.
Oh, my goodness. Losing Aki and then Papa Sammy back-to-back like that must have shaken the whole family to its core.
Immense blows, a real test of that family structure they'd relied on for so long. You lose a beloved sister-in-law and the father figure almost simultaneously. It's hard to imagine.
How did they cope? Did the family unit hold?
It seems it did. The resilience factor kicks in again. The sources show that even through that intense grief, life, and the family kept expanding. Mike and Susan had their sons, Ben and Matt. Down in Louisiana, Nancy and John had Ian and Jane. And the tradition continued. Despite the sadness, despite the growing numbers, everyone still gathered at Mama Etoile's house. She really stepped into that matriarchal role, holding things together.
She became the new center. Meanwhile, Larry's career path solidified during this time.
Yes.
So heading into the 80s, Larry seems really focused on providing that stability. His career at Hancock Fabrics was a big part of that.
He was the store manager there for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah, stayed until 2001. And it wasn't just, any retail job. His store was apparently a key supplier for local groups, even theater productions. So kind of woven into the community fabric,
Yes.
literally.
That long tenure provided security, which probably freed him up to be a really involved dad. But really, what seems to define Larry most in this era, according to the accounts, isn't his job title. It's how incredibly involved he was as a father.
Ah, okay. Tell me more about that.
He was just present, totally devoted. The sources are full of these little anecdotes that paint a really warm picture,
Like what?
like coming home after a long day managing the district and immediately getting down on the floor to pretend to be a horse or a bull for Celia and Lori to ride, or having these playful wrestling matches with Brad in the living room, giving them his time, his energy, his full attention.
That's the giver philosophy starting to really show up in his actions.
Exactly. And it wasn't just playing at home, he showed up for everything. Celia had dance recitals, Lori was into gymnastics, Brad played soccer, Larry was there at all of it. He understood that being the rock meant being physically present.
That consistency is huge for kids.
For sure. And he always brought a sense of humor along, even to, potentially serious parental duties.
Is this where the Huntsville Space and Rocket Center story comes in?
Ah, yes. The infamous field trip anecdote. He chaperoned Brad's class trip. And apparently, at some point in front of Brad's friends, well, he passed gas.
Oh no. Laughs. What did he do?
Without missing a beat, he apparently just announced it must been a rocket blasting off.
Oh, that's classic dad humor. Mortifying for Brad, probably, but hilarious.
Right, but it shows that core part of his personality again. Using humor, even slightly goofy or embarrassing humor, to connect with people, to lighten the mood. He's choosing to give levity, not seriousness. That's the giver thing again, choosing joy, choosing connection, even in awkward moments.
Yeah, definitely. But this period, the mid-'80s, also brought something really serious. Something dangerous.
Yes. This is a major turning point, a moment of real trauma. Around 1985, Larry was attacked.
Attacked? How?
He was walking to his truck after work carrying the bank deposit from Hancock Fabrics, and he was ambushed by two men. They shot him.
Shot him. Oh my God. During a robbery.
Exactly. It was sudden, planned it seems. One guy was hiding in the truck bed, another was nearby. They took the money and ran.
How badly was he hurt?
Badly enough to be rushed to the hospital, but incredibly, he survived the shooting.
Wow. That's terrifying. Especially thinking back to what happened to his brother, Sammy Jack. That kind of random violent encounter.
It's a chilling echo, isn't it? He faced that same kind of sudden, life-threatening violence decades later, and he pulled through. It's a profound moment of resilience.
Did he fully recover? Any lasting effects?
He recovered, yes, but the sources confirm that some shrapnel couldn't be removed. It remained lodged under his arm permanently.
So a constant physical reminder of that attack. He literally carried that experience with him.
Yeah, a physical scar mirroring maybe some of the internal ones from other losses. Yet again, the narrative is that he didn't let it define him in a negative way, didn't let it make him fearful or closed off.
Amazing. So he continues at Hancock Fabrics after that. Until when?
Until 2002. By then, the fabric business landscape was changing. Big box retailers were providing stiff competition, and Hancock Fabrics was winding down, so his long tenure there came to an end.
What did he do next? A career shift after so long must have been challenging.
He actually worked for a short time at Chick-fil-A. Interestingly, he worked there as a store manager alongside his son, Brad.
Oh, really? Father and son working together? How did that go?
Well, it gives us this little window into his personality clashing with a certain kind of corporate structure. The sources are pretty blunt about it.
In what way?
He apparently did not get along at all with the store operator, a guy named Morris Jackson. The description given is that Jackson was a very rigid businessman, maybe a bit controlling. The source even uses the phrase, somewhat narcissistic personality.
Oof, and Larry.
Larry, with his more easygoing, people first, maybe slightly sarcastic approach.
Yeah.
He was just not a fan, as the source puts it.
Sounds like a clash of philosophies. Larry the Giver versus a more rigid top-down style.
That seems to be the interpretation. Larry prioritized the human connection, the relationship, maybe the humor, and when that ran up against a very strict, perhaps self-focused corporate style, it just didn't work for him. He wasn't going to thrive there.
Makes sense. Any other family changes happening around this time? Sibling stuff?
Yeah, there was a shift there, too. His brother Kurt and his wife Lacan got divorced back in the mid-'80s, and the sources note that Kurt went on to marry and divorce several more times after that.
Adds another layer of complexity to the wider family dynamic, I suppose.
It does. But through all these career changes and evolving sibling lives, the core stability of Larry and Darlene's immediate family seems to have remained really solid.
Which brings us towards the more recent years, right? Part 5, The Giver, The Rock, and the Legacy,
Hmm.
from 2002 onwards.
Exactly. This is the era where he fully steps into the role of Papa the grandfather and really embodies that rock persona cemented by decades of experience.
Grandparenthood starts pretty soon after he leaves Hancock Fabrics.
Right away, basically. January 2002. His middle daughter, Lori, gave birth to the first grandchild, a boy named Sam. Larry officially became Papa.
And the grandkids kept coming after Sam.
Oh, yes. The Robertson clan entered a new phase of expansion. Lori had another child, Micah. Celia had 2 kids, Alexa Grace and later Emery.
Okay.
And Brad and his wife Allison added 3 more. Addie Joe arrived in April 2012, then Caleb in 2015, and Silas in 2018.
So 7 grandchildren in total. Wow. That's a big bustling family gathering again.
Absolutely. Continuing that tradition started by his own parents decades before. Lots of noise, lots of love, lots of mama and papa time.
That connection really seems central. You mentioned their 50th anniversary, too.
Yeah, that was in December 2020, a huge milestone, 50 years together. And despite it being the absolute height of the COVID pandemic, their kids and grandkids managed to organize a surprise party for them.
During COVID. That must have been tricky.
For sure. It was apparently just the immediate family, very carefully done. But the fact they made that effort, even under those circumstances, really underscores how important marking those milestones, celebrating that core relationship, was to everyone.
That's lovely. But this period also held more sadness, didn't it? Another significant loss.
Tragically, yes. One of the most painful losses of his adult life, it seems. In November 2016, his younger brother Mike died very suddenly, a heart attack.
Oh, Mike. You mentioned earlier they seemed particularly close.
The sources are quite clear on this. Larry was likely closest to Mike out of all his siblings. Their bond was described as really unique and profound. Losing him must have been devastating.
What made their relationship special? Shared interests.
Lots of shared activities and traditions. They took frequent trips back to Mississippi together for family reunions or just driving around revisiting old haunts, memory lane stuff.
Yeah.
They also did beach vacations together, and they shared a big passion for Southern college football. They'd go to Alabama games or Ole Miss games together.
Classic Southern brothers bond right there.
Totally. And it's the little details, too. The sources mention these specific things they shared, like listening to German polka music.
German polka music. Where did that come from?
Apparently, Mike picked up a taste for it when he was stationed in Germany with the Army, and they'd listen to it together.
And they also loved listening to comedy tapes by the Southern humorist Louis Grizzard.
Huh.
Those shared quirky things are often the deepest bonds, aren't they?
They really are. Losing that specific companionship, that shared history and humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, a massive blow for Larry.
So through all of this, the early tragedy with Sammy Jack, losing his dad, the violent attack, now losing Mike Larry consistently shows up as this stable presence.
That's the overwhelming picture painted by the sources. He absorbed all these shocks, all this grief, and somehow remained the reliable, often humorous, deeply empathetic center for the family. He truly solidified his role as their rock.
And it all circles back to that philosophy you mentioned at the start.
Exactly. That saying, there are 2 types of people in the world, givers and takers. The sources consistently portray him as someone who consciously chose and lived as a giver.
What does that look like in his day-to-day personality, beyond just being there for family?
Well, what makes him seem so human and relatable is this contrast. The sources mention he's known for being, perpetually late for everything.
Okay, relatable.
And his answers to questions are often sarcastic or kind of goofy. He's not necessarily presenting this polished, perfect image.
Right.
But underneath that playful, maybe slightly chaotic surface, he rarely gets genuinely angry, and he has this incredible reputation for helping anyone who needs it immediately, without hesitation, at the drop of a hat, as they say. The humor seems almost like the delivery mechanism for his generosity.
That makes sense. And his interactions outside the family, with strangers.
That completes the picture. He's described as someone who talks to absolutely everyone, never meets a stranger. He'll strike up full conversations, learn people's life stories in the grocery line, apparently even hugs people he's just met.
Wow. That's radically open, especially considering the trauma and danger he's experienced.
Isn't it? After the family tragedy, the public scrutiny surviving a shooting, you could understand someone retreating, becoming wary, cynical, building walls. But Larry seems to have done the opposite. He chose openness, Generosity, trust. That kid left at the zoo, the man who survived the gunshot wound, he became someone who meets the world with open arms. It's quite remarkable.
It really is. So let's try to synthesize this. We've covered a lot of ground. The weight of 1962, the move, the Green Beret discipline, the 50-plus years with Darlene, the kids, grandkids, the Hancock Fabrics career, the terrifying robbery.
And the profound losses his father, Aki, his closest brother, Mike. What strikes me looking at all the pieces is that direct line between facing deep hardship and developing that giver philosophy. He didn't respond to pain with bitterness, he responded with humor, with reliability, with generosity. His default setting became stabilize the family, offer presence, choose connection. He processed the world's difficulties by becoming its rock.
A powerful testament to choosing how you respond, no matter what life throws at you.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe for you listening. We've seen how Larry Robertson defined himself as this rock, this giver, through that loyalty and radical generosity shaped by his life experiences.
Yeah.
Think about maybe the heaviest piece of your own life story, that really difficult experience, that loss, that crisis you carry. What if you made a conscious choice, like Larry seems to have done, to respond to that weight not by closing off, but with deliberate openness, maybe even humor? How might leaning into being a giver in the face of your own hardships change the narrative of your own legacy? Something to mull over.